Coming up on this episode, we are going to give you 3 ways to enhance your sexual relationship in the bedroom. Stay tuned. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Richard Wagner. He is a psychotherapist, an author, and an activist. Please help me welcome Dr. Wagner to the show. Hi, Dr. Wagner. How you doing?
Hello, fine. Thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me at the Love Manual. I appreciate it. I want to get right into these questions because a lot of people want to hear what psychotherapists and sexologists have to say about these questions. So I'm going to just get right into it. What inspired you, first of all, to become a sexologist?
Well, my road to sexology was stranger than most people. I was a Catholic priest for 20 years. And early on in my priesthood, I wanted to do an upfront gay ministry. And my religious community said that they would support me and encourage me and put me forward, but that I needed to get a degree. And I had just finished my my theology degree, so they wanted something different. So I found a degree in sexology and spent almost 4 years working on that degree and writing my dissertation, which was the sexual attitudes and behaviors of gay Catholic priests in the active ministry. And I finished this in 1981, and to great amazement of my religious community, at least the local one here in the United States. But by the time the word got to Rome, they were not happy. Because back in 1981, the official position was there was no such thing as gay priests, let alone sexually active ones in the active ministry. So that kind of cut my priestly ministry down.
Wow. So you being a priest and then wanting to go into sexology, I know that was probably a big shocker to most. How did you handle that?
Well, as it turns out, I'm the only Catholic priest in the world that has a doctorate in clinical sexology, and that pretty much says it all. If the church was really interested in, a sex-positive message, other clergy people would be involved in sexology, but they're not. And it took me some while to figure that out, and it saddens me so because it was a big portion of my life. And but now that is over.
Right. Wow. Well, this is a nice field to be in because a lot of people want to know all of the questions that I'm going to ask. And one of them is, do you think that masturbation is healthy for women, let alone men?
Absolutely, it's healthy for everyone. Masturbation is the most basic building block of human sexuality, and the 40 years that I've spent in private practice has told me that most problems that people have with their sexuality, particularly in partnered sex, has to do with the fact that they are uninformed about their own sexual preferences and interests and eroticism and their own body. And so the best way to figure that out is through masturbation. So I'm a big proponent of that.
Yes, I agree as well. If you don't know your body, how can you tell anybody else what you like
Exactly that.
and what you don't like, right? So, do you think that if you're not sexually attracted to your partner, can you get there? Do you think that you can?
Oh, I suppose anything is possible.
Mhm.
It's a difficult thing. Um, um, Most people generally give up and say, well, this we're incompatible, and for one reason or another, and the relationship ends, or at least the sexual part of the relationship ends. And but I suppose there's ways of becoming attractive, learning new things about a partner might be a way of doing that. Um, um, there's
Yeah.
opportunities for people to focus on other things than just physical attributes, which generally is what we talk about when we say that I'm attracted to somebody.
Yeah.
So there's possibility, but it's hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what if you're not a sexual being at all? I know that there's a name for it, but how do you feel about that? Like not being sexually attracted to anyone at all?
Well, there's lots and lots of new types of sexuality. Asexuality is one thing where people who identify as such are not physically, sexually attracted to anyone, and their sexual response, if any, does not include a partner. They might be sexually active with themselves, but that's about it. I think it's a legitimate a way of expressing oneself or not expressing oneself. So
Mhm.
all the best to them.
Right. Wow. So, how do you tell your partner or your mate that they're not satisfying you in the bedroom and without hurting their feelings? How do you say that?
Well, that's also difficult, but important. And because without speaking up, it seems to me you're just perpetuating the status quo, and nobody's going to be happy. Um, I counsel my clients to create what I call a compliment sandwich. So you compliment somebody for one thing that
Mhm.
you really like about them, and then you put the more difficult message about whatever it is about not being sexually satisfied in this instance in the middle, and then you compliment them again.
Right.
So it kind of creates a bumper against the more difficult message. But I mean, you don't have to. You can be very upfront about um, what it is that you need to say to your partner with regard to sexual satisfaction, without devastating your partner. You can tell them wonderful things. You're a great man. You're a great woman. You're my favorite person. I'm not being sexually um,
Yeah, satisfied, right?
satisfied, and
Yeah.
then but we can work on this because you're an open and wonderful person. Now that's a sandwich,
Yeah.
and that makes good sense to me.
Well, I like that. And speaking of sandwiches, how do you incorporate sex toys in the bedroom? If, say, like if a woman is uncomfortable with these things because she's never explored this option, how can a man introduce this into the bedroom and make a woman feel comfortable with it?
Well, one of the things that I always encourage men not to do is to go out and buy a sex toy themselves for their female partner. That's
Smart.
that's not going to work out so pretty good generally. And it's funny because men mean well, God bless them.
Right.
And generally they would go to a store, sex toy store, and buy something that is penis shaped because
Because they
that's
think that
their
that's what we
this is
want,
our
right?
this is our magic wand. And so we're going to get a toy that looks like my magic wand. That's a
Hmm.
mistake. That's a mistake. I think the best way to introduce sex toys, particularly if the female partner is not excited about the idea, is go online and start looking at things. There's tons and tons of sex stores online, and
Uh-huh.
they're wonderful. And a lot of the female-oriented sex toys are
Mhm.
absolutely brilliant these days. They're not penis shaped, so
Right.
that's one happy thing.
Yes.
And they're vibrators, and they're delicious, and they're wonderful, and they're easy to
Mhm.
clean, and they're rechargeable, and they're silicone, and it's just
Yes.
absolutely wonderful, wonderful stuff out there.
It's true. I agree. Love that online idea about you and your mate doing it together and not
That's right.
just you. Yeah, that's very interesting
Right.
because a lot of men will go out there and purchase a penis shaped toy and think that that's what we want, but it's really not. So, can you give me at least three ways to enhance your sexual relationship in the bedroom?
I certainly can. The first one is communicate. We've been talking about that since we started this podcast.
Mhm.
Communication is absolutely essential. Communicate all the time while you're in the bedroom. It can be dirty talk, it can be fun, it can be, oh, try this, or could you move over here, or could you, this is important. Communication is important. The second of all is to play.
Right.
Most of the people that I see in my private practice are working at sex. They're
Oh,
struggling at it, and they're got to get
yeah.
this right. And there's no
Yeah.
play attitude to it at all. And you can't have really good sex without play. It seems to me.
Right.
And finally, be inventive. I mean, the biggest sex organ
Mm,
in our body is right here between our ears. And
yes.
that's where it all happens. Talk about your fantasies, talk about, your likes and dislikes, talk about imagining, talk about role play, talk about all kinds of things that could spice up your sex life.
I like that you said that because that was a thought of mine as well. What do you think about role play? Do you think it's healthy and will it really spice it up in a bedroom?
It certainly can. Again, everybody has both partners, or as many partners as you have. They all have to be on the same page with regarding to that. You can't launch into something and say, this is something that I want to do without checking with your partner first. But
Right.
yeah, role play is wonderful, and it's creative, and it gets people away from
Mhm.
the old in and out kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, again, if it's playful, like role
Mhm.
play,
Yes.
then it's liberating and it's life affirming and it's uplifting and it's joyful.
It really is. I agree with that. So, what do you think about public displays of affection? And I know it's not for everyone, and it may be a turnoff, to someone in the relationship. But what do you think about that?
Again, being conscious of the needs and sentiments of um, both partners, and being careful not to overstep that. But if people are comfortable with it, it's fine and dandy. One thing
Yeah.
that I would encourage is if you are a heterosexual couple and
Mm.
you enjoy public displays of affection, you can hardly criticize somebody who is not heterosexual and also doing the same thing. So, what
Right.
is good for the goose is also good for the gander. So, be
Mhm.
cautious about that and be willing to be open to the fact that other people would want to express themselves as well.
Absolutely. I agree with that. How do you feel about porn? Do you think that watching porn in the bedroom with your mate is healthy, or do you think that that's like a relationship curse?
I think it's for for a number of people, particularly men,
Uh-huh.
they need some initial stimulation. Older men, for example, who need a bunch of stimulation before a sexual encounter with their immediate partner or their intimate partner. And porn often does that. There is wonderful, wonderful ethical porn out there nowadays that didn't
Mhm.
used to be there. And I
Right.
encourage couples to watch together. It's also a wonderful way of introducing different kinds of sexual behaviors, and like, oh, I'd like to try that. Oh, look at
Mhm.
that, and oh, that's interesting. And again, being able to discuss it as you're watching it is a wonderful sort of a liberating experience. So porn can
Yes.
also be a ruination of a relationship too if it's not done well.
Right. Like if it's done too much and a man or woman is just in the room constantly watching porn and
That's
not
right.
paying attention to the mate, it does become a little troubling. But if you're willing to do it together, I think that that's a good idea as well. It's not easy watching, well, let me not say it's not easy watching porn alone. It's really not fun.
Well, it can be if there's a lot of people, and particularly in the state that we're in currently with COVID-19,
Oh,
for many people, their only sexual outlet is
oh,
sexually explicit material, either pornography, video pornography, or erotica. So at least we have that to help
that's
us through this difficult time.
That is really true. That is true. And me, I definitely prefer the DVD over the magazine any day, but that's just me.
Right,
So
right, right,
I
right.
know back in the day, I know that that was how I guess men and women stimulated themselves just by looking at, I guess, the magazines that was offered at that time.
Right,
So
right.
when
Well,
porn,
there's beautiful literary erotica that is just very,
Mhm.
very stimulating for a lot of people, women in particular, who are not as visually oriented, or they find that the visuals are not as life affirming. They find that erotica, a literary erotica, is the ticket. And again, I encourage everyone in our audience who is consuming pornography of one sort or another to make sure that it's ethical pornography. Make sure
Right.
that it's not ripping people off,
Yeah.
either the performers or the people who are writing the stuff. Have a consciousness about that, and help. The more that we watch ethical pornography, the more ethical pornography will be produced.
Wow, that was well said, and it's true. And I really, really want to thank you for answering all of these questions that I know the viewers and listeners want to have the answers to. If people are looking to find you, where can they locate you?
Well, I have a couple of websites that I would turn folks on. My main website is drdicksexadvice.com. That's DRDICKSEXADVICE.com. I'm sure you'll have a link to that with the podcast.
Yes.
And I also have a website where we review sex toys, and that's drdicksextoyreviews.com. And once you get to Dr. Dick's website, you can find all the books that I have published, links to all kinds of websites, important and informative websites, and my sex review website as well. I have about 420 podcasts also on my website for those who are interested in that sort of thing.
Well, that is interesting. I appreciate you taking your time out today and giving our listeners and viewers some of the information that was needed, especially, when it's, like you said, during this time of COVID, we need something to uplift us. And what's
That's
better
right.
than talking about sex?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And
Yes.
congratulations to you for making this
Oh,
podcast available to folks. This is such an important thing. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Dr. Wagner. I appreciate you too. And I know that we are definitely going to want to have you on as a guest again. And next time, the questions may be a little bit deeper than this. We have to ease them into what you know.
All right, I'll study up.
Okay. I appreciate you so much. And please enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a wonderful. I had the opportunity of speaking with Dr. Wagner today, and you can find him on several platforms, as he mentioned. And, we appreciate you guys listening and subscribing and liking and sharing. And thank you so much for joining me at the Love Manual. Until next time, bye bye.